Why does fear intensify for avoidance at the exact moment change becomes possible? Avoidants can see exactly what needs to shift in their lives. They understand the cost of isolation, recognize the walls they've built, and genuinely want something different. But the moment that difference becomes available, fear floods their system like an alarm going off. Today, you'll understand what makes change feel life-threatening to an avoidant, why awareness alone can't fix this response, and the specific behaviors that signal this fear is active. What you're about to learn explains why someone can be completely aware of their avoidance and still unable to change it. The gap between knowing and doing isn't about willpower or motivation. Change threatens the entire structure an avoidant has built to feel safe. That structure isn't just about keeping people at distance. It's a complete way of living that removes the need for anyone else. Being self-sufficient becomes who they are. Independence becomes how they survive. The moment change shows up, it doesn't just ask for different behavior. It demands tearing down the only way of living that has ever felt okay. An avoidant who says they want connection is telling the truth. But connection means depending on someone, trusting someone will stick around, believing someone won't leave when things get hard. Every part of that goes against everything they've spent years building their life around. Think about what happens when an avoidant meets someone who actually shows up, someone who doesn't play games, who makes their interest obvious, who proves they're reliable over weeks and months. This should feel good. This is what they said they wanted. Instead, something uncomfortable starts building. Not the fun kind of nervous that comes with liking someone new. A totally different feeling. Something that feels more like danger getting closer instead of something good arriving. The person showing up hasn't messed up. They're doing everything right. That's exactly the problem, because this person is for real, and real means the chance of actually letting them matter. And letting someone matter means everything has to change. The avoidant who sees this happening can feel stuck between two terrible choices. Stay lonely in the way they already know, or risk the vulnerability they're scared of. Both feel impossible, but vulnerability feels more scary right now. Loneliness is familiar. They know what to expect. They know how to handle it, how to get through their days with it, how to tell themselves it's actually freedom. Vulnerability is territory they don't know. It means saying out loud that they need something. It means letting someone else affect how they feel. It means the chance of getting rejected, left behind, or let down. All the exact things their whole approach to relationships was built to avoid. So fear does what fear always does. It screams at them to get away from the threat. For an avoidant, the threat isn't the actual person. It's what that person represents. The end of doing everything alone. The start of needing someone. The risk of depending on something they can't totally control. Fear tells them to protect what they've built, to keep the independence that feels safe, to back away before things go too far. This happens even when they want the total opposite, even when they can explain exactly why backing away is ruining their own chance at happiness. The fear doesn't care about what makes sense or what they want. It only cares about keeping the structure that has helped them function all this time. You can watch this fear turn on through specific behaviors that pop up right when things start going well. An avoidant who was texting back quickly and making plans suddenly becomes way harder to reach. They take longer to respond. Making plans becomes like pulling teeth. Conversations that were easy and deep start feeling more shallow. They pull back from physical touch. They make less eye contact. These aren't things they're choosing on purpose. They're automatic reactions to growing discomfort that the avoidant might not even recognize as fear. It feels more like maybe they're losing interest, like the excitement is wearing off, like maybe this person isn't the right fit after all. Their brain creates stories that make the pulling back make sense, without having to admit what's really going on. Another obvious sign shows up in how avoidants suddenly start seeing problems everywhere. The person who seemed amazing 2 weeks ago now has issues that feel like big deals. Tiny things become reasons to end it. Things that seemed cute become irritating. Behaviors that felt sweet now look like warning signs. This change isn't about finally seeing the person clearly. It's about their mind hunting for reasons that make distance okay. If the person has problems, if they're not perfect, if there are real concerns, then pulling back is just being smart. It's not fear, it's just seeing reality. The avoidant really believes this new view. They don't see it as protection against getting too close. Some avoidants pick fights to create space without saying that's what they want. Not huge blowout fights, but a steady stream of small tensions that make closeness harder. Finding things to argue about, pushing back on normal requests, taking neutral comments as attacks, building an atmosphere where connection takes more work, more tiptoeing around issues, more energy. The other person starts feeling like they have to be careful about everything, never sure what will cause problems. This does exactly what the fear wants. It creates distance without the avoidant having to say they need space. Room to breathe that feels justified by relationship issues instead of admitted fear of closeness. Other avoidants do the complete opposite and become super agreeable while shutting down emotionally. They show up in person, they say yes to plans, they seem nice and present. But something major is missing. The emotional openness that was there before vanishes. Conversations stay surface level. Going deeper becomes impossible. The avoidant is physically there, but not emotionally there. Just going through the motions, while keeping their real feelings completely locked away. This creates a weird situation where everything looks fine from the outside, while the actual connection slowly dies. The other person can feel that something changed, but can't figure out exactly what. Here's why just knowing about all this doesn't fix it. An avoidant can read everything about attachment, spot their own behaviors, understand exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. That knowledge lives in the part of their brain that thinks things through and analyzes. But fear lives somewhere totally different. It lives in the part that reacts fast, that makes split-second calls about what's safe and what's dangerous, that puts immediate survival ahead of future goals. These two parts don't really talk to each other well. The thinking part can desperately want change, while the reacting part treats that exact same change like a threat to their survival. This explains why avoidants get so frustrated with themselves. They can watch themselves sabotaging as it happens. They see the behavior in real time. They might even tell the other person about their issues, explain their attachment style, admit they're pulling back. But knowing doesn't stop the fear from kicking in. Being aware doesn't change what feels dangerous. An avoidant can understand logically that someone is trustworthy, that the relationship is healthy, that pulling back is destroying something good. That understanding doesn't make vulnerability feel any less scary. The fear gets worse because change isn't something that happens once and then you're done. It's constant exposure to vulnerability. Opening up one time is hard enough, but real connection means staying open. It means letting someone see you struggling, feeling insecure, needing things. It means asking for help when you need it. It means saying when you're hurt instead of acting like everything is fine. It means working through disagreements instead of disappearing. Every single one of these needs vulnerability, and every bit of vulnerability feels risky. All of it added together becomes too much. Change isn't one scary moment. It's scary moments over and over, forever, with no finish line. Avoidants also fear change because they've watched relationships blow up before. Not just their own past relationships, but relationships around them growing up and throughout their life. They've seen people get crushed, watched trust get broken, seen what happens after someone gets abandoned. Their answer was to avoid the whole mess. Don't get close enough to get destroyed. Don't need anyone enough to fall apart if they leave. Don't put in enough emotional energy to be wrecked if it ends. This way of doing things has worked in that it stopped the specific pain they were trying to dodge. But now change is asking them to do all the exact things they've spent years protecting themselves from. The fear isn't just about this one relationship. It's about every relationship that could hurt them the same way others did. There's also fear about losing themselves if they change. Being avoidant often means seeing yourself as independent, tough, self-reliant, not clingy. These feel like their best qualities, the parts of themselves they actually like. Change threatens all of that. If they start depending on someone, does that mean they're not strong anymore? If they admit they need connection, are they weak? If they let someone affect their emotions, do they lose who they are? The fear isn't just about the relationship changing. It's about huge shifts in how they see themselves and how they think others see them. The really tricky part is that avoidants often don't experience this as fear in their mind. They experience it as doubt, as losing interest, as noticing incompatibility, as realizing this person isn't right, as feeling smothered or trapped, as needing freedom. The actual word fear might never enter their thoughts. Instead, they have 100 different explanations for why they're pulling back, and all of those explanations feel totally real and justified. They're not lying when they say they need space, or they're not feeling it anymore, or something feels off. That's genuinely how it registers. The fear is happening underneath, driving everything, but it disguises itself as reasonable thoughts about the relationship. Some avoidants feel this as physical stuff that doesn't seem connected to anything. Their chest gets tight when someone tries to have a deep conversation. They feel restless when plans involve being vulnerable. They get an urgent need to leave, even though nothing bad is actually happening. They have trouble breathing during talks that need emotional honesty. They feel totally exhausted after spending time being present and open. These body sensations back up the message that something is wrong, that danger is near, that they need to protect themselves. The avoidant might not connect these physical feelings to fear of being vulnerable. They just know that certain situations make them feel bad, and staying away from those situations makes the bad feelings stop. What makes this even harder is that avoidants often become more confused the healthier the relationship gets. When someone treats them poorly, when there's drama, when things are unstable, they can handle it. That matches what they expect. That feels normal. But when someone is consistently kind, when there's no game playing, when the relationship is actually healthy and stable, that's when the discomfort maxes out. The healthier it gets, the scarier it becomes. This seems backwards to everyone else. Shouldn't a good relationship feel better than a bad one? For an avoidant, a good relationship means there's something real to lose. A bad relationship is easier because they can blame the problems on the other person's behavior instead of facing their own fear of closeness. The timing of when fear kicks in also reveals a lot. It's not random. It follows a clear pattern tied to deepening intimacy. After the first time someone says they care, after meeting each other's friends or family, after the first trip together, after moving in together, after any moment that signals the relationship is getting more serious. These milestones that most people celebrate become trigger points for avoidance. Each one represents a new level of commitment, a new layer of vulnerability, a new reason why losing this person would hurt. The closer they get to having something real, the more intense the urge to run becomes. Here's the practical truth. Change for an avoidant means doing the thing that feels most dangerous over and over until it starts feeling less threatening. That's not a fast solution. It's not something that just knowing about fixes. It means staying in conversations that feel awful, admitting needs even when every part of you says, stay quiet, asking for support when handling it alone feels safer, making plans that create depending on someone, sharing feelings that make you vulnerable, picking closeness when distance feels way more manageable. Each time builds up tolerance for vulnerability, but each time also turns on the fear. Progress isn't a straight line. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 3 steps back, then forward again. For someone dating an avoidant, telling the difference between fear and actually not caring matters hugely. When an avoidant pulls back, it usually doesn't mean they don't care. It means they care enough that the vulnerability is starting to feel threatening. The pulling back is protection, not rejection. This doesn't make it hurt less, but it changes what the behavior actually means. An avoidant who genuinely doesn't care anymore just fully checks out. They don't create distance while keeping some connection going. They just leave completely. An avoidant who is scared creates messy back and forth. Close, then far, then close again. Engaged, then checked out, then engaged again. The inconsistency itself shows that fear is running the show. The question becomes whether dealing with that back and forth is something you can actually sustain. Understanding why someone pulls back doesn't mean you have to accept that treatment forever. Having compassion for someone's fear doesn't mean you have to tolerate behavior that hurts you. An avoidance fear might be totally real and make sense, but the impact on you is also real. Getting close, then pushed away, then pulled close again, creates instability that destroys trust and security. You can't build something solid when the avoidant keeps moving the foundation. At some point, understanding why doesn't make living through it less painful. Change becomes possible when avoidants start seeing that staying the same has real costs too. Being lonely isn't neutral. Isolation creates its own problems. Self-sufficiency stops certain pain but causes other pain. Years of avoiding vulnerability lead to years of shallow connections, unsatisfying relationships, chronic loneliness dressed up as independence. Eventually, the cost of staying exactly the same can become bigger than the fear of changing. Not because change stops feeling scary, but because being stuck starts feeling worse. This creates the push needed to move through fear, instead of letting fear make every decision. The avoidants who actually make it through this don't do it by getting rid of fear. They do it by choosing vulnerability, even though they're scared. That's a huge difference. Waiting until vulnerability feels safe means waiting forever. It doesn't feel safe. It feels threatening. Growth happens when someone decides the goal matters more than the discomfort. When connection becomes more important than protection, when the risk of getting hurt feels worth it for the chance of having something real. This doesn't happen all at once. It happens through small choices, done consistently, until new ways of being start forming next to the old ones. Real change also needs the right kind of person on the other side. Someone who gets avoidant behavior, who can stay stable during the back and forth, who can point out distancing without making it a huge drama, who keeps their own boundaries while having patience for the process. Not everyone can or should do this. It takes massive emotional strength and willingness to deal with a lot of discomfort. The avoidant also needs to be actively working on their stuff, not just aware of it, but consistently choosing differently, showing up for the hard parts instead of running. Without that active work, the other person is just accepting bad treatment while hoping for change that never comes. Part of what keeps avoidants stuck is that their fear often gets validated by people around them. Friends might say they're being smart by not getting too attached. Family might praise their independence. Society tells them that needing people is weakness and self-reliance is strength. All of this reinforces the idea that their fear is actually wisdom, that their distancing is actually healthy boundaries, that their avoidance is actually self-protection. When everyone around you confirms that staying disconnected is the smart choice, changing becomes even harder, because it means going against not just your own fear, but also the chorus of voices telling you that fear is right. If you see these behaviors in yourself, the biggest thing you can do is notice when fear shows up. Not beat yourself up about it, not try to force it away, just notice it. That moment when someone gets closer and you want to create space. That urge to find problems right when things are going great. That pull to back away when someone shows they're consistently available. Just notice it happening. Name it in your head. This is fear. This is my protection kicking in. This is what I do when vulnerability feels threatening. Noticing doesn't fix it, but it creates a gap between the fear and what you do next. In that gap, you can make a choice. You can feel the fear and still stay present. Feel the urge to distance and still show up. Feel the discomfort and still pick connection. The change avoidance fear isn't really about change itself. It's about losing control. It's about the unknown of depending on someone. It's about the vulnerability of admitting you need something you can't give yourself. It's about the risk of rejection, abandonment, disappointment. All of that sits under the surface of every moment when fear gets intense. Understanding this doesn't make it go away, but it makes the fear less mysterious, less like something is deeply wrong with you, more like a normal response to real risk. And understanding that someone can want change and fear change at the exact same time explains the contradiction that confuses everyone watching. The wanting is real. The fear is real. Both exist together, and whichever one feels stronger right then is the one that wins. If this video helped you understand avoidant fear and change, leave a comment sharing your experience with this dynamic. Have you watched someone want change but consistently move away from it? Have you experienced this yourself? I'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this valuable, hit the like button and subscribe for more content on attachment and relationships. Thanks for watching.